Hello, Vipassana yogis. We're going to talk today about keeping Vipassana fresh and engaging. And this is part 6 of the new student series. Dealing with boredom is such a big thing in Vipassana because it can start to get really mechanical, autopilot. You're not as engaged, right? It becomes, the body scanning can start to become very mechanical. And then your thoughts are just like rolling as you're just kind of in the background doing Vipassana. And so we're going to go over some tips to really stay engaged and how you can do that and what that means. My first advice is to switch up how you meditate, right? If you're getting bored, if you're not engaged, and you're like, is this even working? And you're starting to have some doubts and all this kind of stuff, switch up what you're doing, right? Switch up how you're scanning, right? Change the size of your awareness. If it's a little bit small, make it a little bit bigger. If it's a little bit big, make it a little bit smaller. If you're moving at a medium rate, maybe try moving at a slower rate or at a slightly faster rate, right? And just enough to feel some tension and some effort. And that will really, really help. Now, so in Vipassana, there's three things, right? There's the you, the perceiver, there's the awareness, which is, doing the scanning. And then there's the physical sensations that you're observing all throughout your body. The physical sensations you really can't do anything about, right? They are what they are. Your head is your head, your arm is your arm, and your cells are functioning the way that they are, right? So you're going to leave this out. You can't do anything for physical sensations, and you're not supposed to do anything for physical sensations. Physical sensations are the way that they are. So you have you, the experiencer, and then you have awareness. Oftentimes, boredom or going on autopilot, making it mechanical, is a symptom of your awareness not being engaged in the way that it wants to be. So you as a meditator, when you are bored, that is a signal from your awareness to change something about awareness, right? So then you try that change, and if your awareness is engaged, bam, that's all you got to do. Stick with that change that you made. If that change is not working and your mind still goes back to autopilot, try a different change, right? Like if you change the size, you can either try again to change the size, or if changing the size doesn't seem to be doing the thing, you switch to changing the speed and maintaining this size, right? Or you do both, right? You change the size even more and the speed, and just understand your awareness is always giving you feedback. When it is engaged, that is the way that it wants you to work, right? So if you switch the size and then that clicks and you're super engaged and concentrated, that is the signal that your awareness is telling you, that is like, hey, this is what we need and this is what's working. Whereas if it doesn't keep working and you keep trying different things and you keep getting bored, that is the signal that, you need to try something else. So there's this relationship that you have to awareness, and you have to always be aware of the signals that it is giving you, right? It's kind of like our bodies, right? Our bodies, when we're sitting in meditation, they start to get uncomfortable, right? Maybe your knees start hurting. You've been, sitting cross-legged for 40 minutes, and your knee is sending you a signal to move. And since at home we're not doing sittings of strong determination, we listen to that signal and we change our posture, and then our knee feels better, right? And then that feeling better is the signal that, hey, that change was good. Now you can return to your meditating, and then we return to the meditating. So just as your body gives you signals of, hey, I'm uncomfortable, hey, this isn't working, hey, we need to change this, your awareness is doing the same thing. Is it's telling you, hey, this is not working, right? I'm uncomfortable with how you're doing this autopilot mechanical. And you listen to that signal, you change something, the size of awareness, the speed, the direction, all of this kind of stuff. And then it'll give you a signal back like, yes, this is good. Now you can continue to observe, be aware. Right. So in the meditation, this is what you should do to keep the meditation itself engaging and fun, and enter a flow state more easily, build more concentration. And now outside of your meditation sit, right, for the times when you're thinking of starting to meditate, but then you're like, well, watching the TV is going to be more fun, or continuing this conversation is going to be fun, or I should, go out and party. That's going to be more fun. In order to deal with those kinds of boredoms where it's like outside of the sit, just remind yourself of the benefits, right? Remind yourself of the benefits of meditating, how alive your mind feels, how open, how fresh, how clean it feels, right? It's kind of like scrubbing away dirt, right? You have a clearer vision, you have prettier things inside of you, right? More joy, more happiness, more ease, less stress, less anxiety. And so just remind yourself that by choosing to not meditate, I am choosing to not value these benefits that I'm getting from meditation, right? I'm not valuing my peace of mind, harmony, love, wisdom within myself. And the other thing to that is to change your expectations, right? I, as a new student that graduated after my first course, I had this feeling that if I did my 1 hour in the morning, 1 hour at night, I'll feel how I felt on day 8 or 9 of the 10-day course, right? And then when I don't feel that way, or my meditation isn't as deep as on like day 8, then I start to be like, hey, is this working? Am I doing something wrong? What's happening? This isn't working. I'm like more agitated. I'm not as concentrated. And it's to just understand, well, of course not. Well, of course you're not going to be as focused as when you were meditating 12 hours a day for 7 days in a row. So it's changing your expectation of what you should get out of your daily meditation, right? I will say you should be getting benefits nonetheless, right? You should feel better in general after you meditate. You should be feeling the rewards in real time as you're meditating, after you're done meditating. You should notice your days better because you meditated. And if you don't, then it's a deeper issue of like figuring out what you might be doing wrong, and really correcting the way that you're practicing. So to combine these things, right, it's just really understanding how to get better in the flow of the day-to-day of like prioritizing the meditation into your day, of like making time for meditation in your day, and then making the most of your practice when you're actually sitting by, again, changing, by building that relationship with your awareness and really understanding the signals that it's sending you, and then understanding the solutions to those signals and how to change it. Just jumping in to add that what I'm talking about in this next part of the video is that Vipassana doesn't always have to be fresh, right? Once we manage this expectation of why we're doing it and we want it to feel fresh and engaging, that sometimes it's just a little boring, right? It's kind of like when you're in a long-term relationship, right? You have the honeymoon phase where, oh, everything is so amazing. And then there's a certain level of perhaps boredom. Like there's a certain level of staleness. Like it sounds so bad when I'm saying it. But there is a certain level of staleness that is expected with everything, right? It's like, whether that's a relationship, whether that's a new job, right? You get a new job in the beginning, it's all amazing and wonderful. And then it kind of fades to a normal level of fun. And so we need to have that mindset with Vipassana as well, of that there will be the honeymoon phase where it's just freaking amazing and everything's wonderful. And then it comes down to a baseline. Now, this baseline should be good in general, right? Like you should, like, even in your relationship, once the honeymoon phase is over, like it should still be a good relationship, right? It shouldn't be a horrible relationship. Then you should get out of it. Even with work, right? The honeymoon phase is over. Like you should still like to work there. And if you don't, you should probably change jobs. And so just understanding that it's not going to be like the honeymoon phase where it's going to be amazing. And so the rest of what I'm talking about in this video is the reason why, even though it goes a little stale, like with other things, why it is so worth it to just keep doing it, even if you're not as engaged as, a honeymoon phase new relationship. All right. I hope you enjoy the rest of this video. Thanks. So for me personally, the number one thing that keeps me 100% motivated to continue my practice is my suffering, right? I have understood my suffering to the extent that it is unthinkable to miss my meditation practice. And what do I mean by that? So when I completed my first 10-day course, it was very easy to, like I practiced for a month and then I like stopped practicing. And then even my second course, for a while after, for a couple months after I was practicing, stopped practicing. Then my third course as well, right? There was like this cycle of I would go to a course, I'd have all these benefits, I would stop practicing, my mind would degrade, and then I would go back to a course. So essentially what happened with every time my mind degraded, every time I felt what my mind is like without meditating, right? The anxiety, the stress, the depression, the existential dread, all the things, right? All the things that really accumulated in my mind when I didn't meditate. Every time I was in that state, I would just feel it, right? I would just feel that state. And it was something I didn't like, right? I didn't want it. Nobody wants to feel depressed or anxious or sad or, none of that. Nobody wants to feel that way. And so it took a while for my mind to really process that meditation can thwart these feelings, can reduce these feelings and increase feelings of goodness. And so more so than feeling good, than being motivated by feeling good, it was more so and is more so on a daily basis. I want to avoid feeling miserable, And that's what Vipassana is about, right? It's a way out of misery. It's a way out of suffering. And so if you don't understand suffering, if you don't understand that you are suffering and that there is a way out, why would you meditate? So if you do not meditate, if it takes you a few courses or months to really get into a meditation routine, I encourage you to really focus on the state of your mind on a day-to-day basis. And just do this like long-term view and come to understand that it might take more than your first 10-day course. But the amazing thing is you have gone to this 10-day course, you've completed it, and now you kind of know the kind of state that your mind is capable of getting into. And so you've planted the first seed. And then just view how your mind progresses without the practice. And one day that will give you the motivation to stay practicing. And so the more that I experience suffering in my life, and not necessarily huge suffering of, somebody died or big things happening. It was just literally the day-to-day heaviness of trying to be a human being, having this mind that was so sensitive and so complex and all these emotions, these negative emotions that just accumulated, and life being so tiring and that kind of suffering, right? Just the low, like the day-to-day experience of life. Pay attention to that suffering. And once you have really understood the extent of that suffering, the nature of that suffering, and you've done this 10-day course and this is a way out, for me, it does help with that day-to-day feelings. Like it 100% does help with that mild depression, anxiety, existential dread. And so when you feel suffering, that kind of suffering, the just normal everyday kind, remind yourself, here's a technique that I have gone and learned how to do that can help me come out of it. So those are the things that really help me to stay motivated and to keep things fresh and to keep Vipassana engaging, right? Keep it alive in my mind, in my day-to-day, and in my practice. All right. Thank you so much.